from what I can tell, you do believe in Code 19, right? So there's a brother here. He says he accepts everything about Code 19. He's just struggling for the first 7 verses of Surah Mudathir. How will you explain to that? Specifically, he's saying how can it be the code in verses 6 and 7? What's your response to this inquiry?
Let me go check chapter 74, verse 7-4. Hold on, 74. Which verse he said?
So from the beginning, Surah Al-Mudathir, from the beginning, from chapter 74, verse 1 to verse 7. And he's saying, how can all of this be talking about Code 19 when the direction shifts from verse 6?
I see. In fact, the language of the Quran is beautiful, very impressive, very unique. There are rich layers of the Quran, of the language of the Quran. And in fact, in 19 Questions for Atheists, the Turkish version, half of it are scientific and philosophical questions, challenging questions to atheists. The other half, atheist objection to the Quran. And in that book, there are 2 or 3 questions I dedicated to the language of the Quran. Unfortunately, that part we didn't translate. I didn't have time. Someone translated 10 questions. Therefore, you can find it in academia for free, 10 questions for atheists. However, this is one of the things that the language of Quran is very impressive. You see something exactly relevant to the time of Prophet Muhammad, and we see the same verse applies to our time. Let me go over these verses very fast. Ya ayyuhal muddathir, O the hidden one. Well, this could be Muhammad if he was hiding somewhere, or this could be referring to something code, a hidden secret, like personification. In literary, if you read about literary literature, you know that there one of the arts is personification. You personify inanimate objects, and the Quran does that. For example, one verse you remember when God says to the earth and to the sky, to all the universe, come to the order, either willingly or unwillingly. They say what? Yes, we come willingly. God personifies and makes them talk. The same about the code. Now imagine this is addressing to the code, the secret ones, 1406 years, means 19 times 74 lunar years it was secret in the Quran. Oh, the secret one. قُمْ فَأَنذِرْ, come out and warn. وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ, glorify your Lord. Exactly this code is doing. Of course, Muhammad did the same thing, and any person who is in hiding or in introspective situation, alone, solitary life, and tell that person, come out and share it with other people. And the following verse says, وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ, cleanse your garments. But we know in the Quran, the word garment is used for 2 meanings. One is the garments that we, for fabric, clothes we wear, and the other is garment is, for example, وَلِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى هُوَ خَيْرٌ. The garment of taqwa means righteousness is better. Therefore, the garment is used as a metaphor, in abstract way, not more. Therefore, here you can say, well, God tells Muhammad, clean your clothes since there was some dirt on it. This is a way of understanding, I understand, but it is really a primitive way of understanding, because there is much more important than that. Purify your garments. And I do think this is a addressing to the code in relation to the Quran, because code cleaned some of the spots.
Edip,
Yes.
let me just clarify the position, okay? So for everybody, we're looking at chapter 74, the hidden secret, Al-Mudathir. The first verse, in the name of God, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, all you hidden secret, come out and warn, extol your Lord, purify your garment. And then in verse 5, forsake what is wrong. 6 and 7 is be content with your lot, steadfastly commemorate your Lord. So my understanding, and I'm wondering if you agree with me, is that this is referring to the Quran. The hidden secret is in the Quran, which is the garment of the hidden secret, and the purification is the 2 false verses injected in Surah 9. Do you agree with this assessment?
Yeah. I think that one and few other corrections based on the code 19 is absolutely is implication to that one. Yes.
So, but now the question is, okay, do you see it consistently in regard to the code starting from verse 6 and then verse 7 where it says, be content with your lot, steadfastly commemorate your Lord? Or do you say that the direction of focus changes when it gets to that verse?
No, that also could for a person, for me and you, and also for the code. وَلَا تَمْنُنْ تَسْتَكْثِرْ, do not exceed the limits, do not want more. The code, because it is God is addressing the code. Do not go beyond. And because, for example, to us is do not make up arbitrary numerical jugglery. Many people who unfortunately who are new and they witness the code, they get excited. They don't have any statistical, mathematical basis and or I don't know, maybe sense. And therefore, they just arbitrarily, they put numbers together next to each other. They don't know it is arbitrary. The probability is so huge. And then they say, here it is, another miracle, another. They come up with fake miracles, which really, as someone who knows mathematics, will laugh at them. But they are excited. Therefore, I think it is also for them, for us. Do not just try to make up, exaggerate, create new ones, because it weakens, in fact. When you create fake diamonds, there's huge diamonds. You say, this is also another diamond. I find another diamond. When they check your so-called diamonds, when they find that it's a piece of glass, and they will cry, they will doubt about the real diamond there too. Therefore, it is both for the code. The code is under God's control. Therefore, God instructed the code not to tastakthir, not to exceed, and also for us not to exceed our limits, not to generate fake codes.
Naveed, can I say something? We got a couple people having
I want
questions.
to get anyone that has a question. Can you please write it down so I can ask?
We have, I think
like
it was
40
the lights
people.
close
Literally,
by.
I'm not exaggerating.
We have too many. I know. I've been trying to keep a count of the
I have
questions.
I have a question I can ask for the. Wait, I'll just for someone. The light close by. Salat doesn't have a multivariate interpretation. It means one thing. So if Rashad was doing a different Salat, he was not a brethren in the religion, according to chapter 9, verse 11. So what's your answer to this, Edip Yüksel?
No, again, your paradigm is different than mine. If Rashad was alive today, I would be able to discuss with him the issue, which I have discussed many issues. 1 year, every day we're discussing the verses. He was translating the Quran. In fact, the third revision, I was translating the Turkish, the Quran. We were coming together when we finished a page. We were comparing with each other, we're discussing that. Therefore, I don't, the way you are making it a major issue, certain details of the prayer, especially about ritualistic details. I don't. And I don't think that anyway, if you are doing that way, no problem. God will not, never in the Quran says, if you pray 3 units or 4 units, you will go to hell. If it was something like that, it would do. But this is, again, details of the things. We made it so much importance. It comes from our Sunni background. Of course, me and Rashad, we came from Sunni background. We could not escape from it in 1 second. This is God's Sunnah. And therefore, he continuously was trying to purify himself from those false assumptions, false information. He was correcting himself. The same with me. But he passed away. It doesn't mean that that purification will not continue, that he became perfect. I don't think any one of us will become perfect in understanding everything. But I am responsible of myself, not responsible of you. Whatever you do, my brother, your prayer is between you and God. As long as you pray, it is you between you, God. I have no intention to chastise you for anything you do or blame you for anything. But for me, if you want to impose on me, I say, my brother, I believe that the Quran is detailed and the Quran is sufficient regarding this one. And as far as few ritualistic things, I don't think it is a major issue as you exaggerate.
I had a different question.
Can we move on to? Okay.
I had a question, Edip. Where do you see? Obviously, we've opened the door to like basically a non-traditionalist interpretations of the Quran, or just kind of open-ended. Where do you see the line drawn? I've spoken about with you on this in the past. For example, people just change the Quran to however they want. This levels of Quranism. They reject miracles. They'll say different words are used. They'll reinterpret the events, reject the events, and come up with fundamentally new meanings. Where is the limit on this? Where do you see the limit of this kind of Quranist approach?
Well, I can only talk for myself. I do sometimes criticize people for distorting some clear verses of the Quran, but ultimately the Quran itself is a test. The God says in the Quran, it will guide those who are righteous, who have good intention. It will misguide those who have bad intention. Therefore, a personal intention regarding the Quran, if that person, there are reasons for why we may differ in understanding of some of the verses. One is ignorance of the subject matter. Maybe a person, maybe I haven't studied all related verses of the Quran or ayah in the nature, because some verses are related to our knowledge about nature, and the God's laws in nature is called ayat, the same as the verses of the Quran. Therefore, this could be because of my ignorance, and that with time I should not rush, in fact, into understanding before I receive that understanding. But sometimes we don't know. We think that we really reach to that understanding. It is my error, but God forgives this error because it is not bad intention. And with time, I have chance to correct it when I learn other verses or other events in nature explaining that. And the second is intention, negative intention, to try to come up with something different so that pull attention, and it is really ego, and we're all prone to that, and therefore it is a major sin, and therefore we have to always seek refuge to God from Satan, and not having such a motive in order to show off. And I have seen people, and maybe some people may think that I am doing the same thing. Therefore, the second is ego. And the third thing is sometimes groupthink, and someone is making up and the others follow because of the friendship and stuff. And we cannot really stop it, because it is the Quran is also testing everyone, even those who claim to believe in the Quran. Where is the line? The line is monotheism, I do believe. And the line is your intention. If your intention is good, ultimately God is the one who is going to judge. And also witnessing mathematical miracle of the Quran, I think it is very clear to me. Anyone who fights against it, who belittle it, he's hypocrite, because verse clearly says hypocrites and ingrates, الكافرون and الذين في قلوبهم مرض. And these are the two groups are exposed by these 19. And well, it is a matter of respecting God, and you cannot really force people to respect God if they don't have in heart. We may disagree about certain things, and I do believe if we are honest people, we are sincere, we will, with our discussion with time, we will learn from each other more, and we enrich each other's understanding. But who knows?
Yeah. Okay, I just want to let Buzaid finish his question. This is our brother, traditionalist Sunni brother from the Middle East. I think he's from Qatar. He's gonna just finish your question, please. We want to move on to.
Yeah, I'll move on from that question. So, the one that I want to ask is about Arabic. So basically, the Quran is written in Arabic, and I wouldn't think there would be anything apparent to the text that would go against the religion or like would go basically like cannot be understood through Arabic lens. The question is basically what I'm trying to ask is which Arabic does the Quran came in? As in, can I myself bring a dictionary that I made myself and start interpreting the Quran with it? And if no, good. But which timeline would be appropriate one? Okay, as you know, language changes with time.
Okay, thank you for your question. All right, go ahead.
A good question. Here is the answer. The Quran says, Ar-Rahman allama al-Quran. The teacher of the Quran is God. And God knows that the language might change. But God also, through the Quran, designed a language and an intricate system that the Quran explains itself. And also, in anything that we doubt, God, since is the teacher of the Quran, God is alive, Muhammad is dead, and God will provide us with understanding 100%. But many people do not trust God. And here is a verse in the Quran as وَلَقَدْ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّهُمْ يَقُولُونَ إِنَّمَا يُعَلِّمُهُ بَشَرٌ لسان الذي يلحدون إليه أعجمي وهذا لسان عربي مبين. And then the other verse says, what was it? You remember? أعجمي وعربي. Whether it is Arabic or foreign language. Let me see that one. أعجمي. Do you remember that verse?
Yeah. It's 41-44.
Okay, let me find that verse. 41-44. 41-40. That is an interesting word. 45-44.
No, 41-44.
Yeah, 41-44. ولو جعلناه قرآنا عجبيا لقالوا لولا فصلت آياته أعجمي وعربي. Whether the Quran is a foreign language or in Arabic, قل هو للذين آمنوا هدى وشفاء. Okay. The Quran says, God says, the language of the Quran is not relevant for guidance. And because God is the teacher of the Quran, regardless of the language, you may learn it from any translation. I have seen people, for example, the two friends of mine from Britain, Chris Moore and Linda Moore. They don't know Arabic, but they understand the Quran more than 99% of people whose Arabic is their own native language. Do you think that there were poets during time, Abu Jahl or Abu Lahab or Walid bin Mughira, they did not understand the Quran just because they didn't know Arabic. They knew Arabic more than you and your scholars. However, they did not understand the Quran. The Quran says there is a barrier between mushriks and the Quran. They may be professor of the language of Arabic, the best knower, but they will not understand the Quran. But if your heart is open, whatever, whatever the language, you will understand. God will find a way to teach you. I have seen many examples of it. Chris and Linda Moore, they were my friends. They came once, visited us, stayed with us, and we're studying the Quran. And one day I saw Chris criticizing my translation of a verse. Says, you made an error in this translation. How do you know? You don't know Arabic. How did you know? Well, he says, I compared with the other verse. There is a contradiction, and this doesn't make sense. Therefore, it is an error. And I look at it, wow, lo and behold, mashallah. Because he used his heart and mind, he trusted God, he was able, without knowing any Arabic, correcting a major error in my translation. But I have seen many people who knows Arabic than anyone else. They cannot understand simple statements in the Quran.
Thank you for answering that question. All right, so Brother Ahmed, do you want to come up and ask your question, and I can read the document you're referring to? He's talking about a specific document written in one of the last submitters' perspectives, written by Rashad Khalifa. Do you want to come up, Ahmed, and ask your question?
Yeah, so Rashad says in this note here, during the last 19 years, God has charged me with, he's attributing this to God. He says,
just read it. Just read it.
He says in the fourth number, announcing the correct way, observing the 5 daily contact prayers. He's saying here that God charged him with giving us the correct law. Does this not mean that he got this from God?
Okay, yeah, and this is in relation to the June 1988 edition of the Submitter's Perspective. This quote is from there. Yeah. So he's asking you, why is he... Rashad is claiming that this is God telling him to do this. So what is your answer to this?
Yeah, he was referring to his exposing the idolization of Muhammad, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and then adding Muhammad's name in their prayers, or in Tahiyya, saying to Muhammad as if he's the second person, Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi wa rahmatullah, these kinds of things, in ablution against the Quran. Through this way, this is the only thing that he did, that corrected. And I know exactly, and you should know it too. It doesn't mean everything that whatever you are doing or now it is a correction by God. No, there's no such a thing. And these are the things that he corrected, and I am in agreement 100% with those.
Did you have anything else to add? Ahmed, did you want to ask anything else?
So he received no revelation in regards to the correct way of Salah.
Rashad never claimed to receive extra revelation beside the Quran. And he had personal revelation, I do agree, and I have personal revelation. But in terms of his life, he said, Quran, nothing but the Quran. Quran alone, nothing but the Quran alone. And that's it.
Can I just push back on this, though? So in one of his appendix, I think it's appendix 31 or 30, which one is it? Talks about age of 40. He says, this is not my personal opinion. He says, this is part of my duty as a messenger to proclaim to you that anyone dies under 40 goes to heaven. It's not my personal opinion. So how do you interpret that statement?
But I know it is in the Quran. It is, of course, his understanding, and I understand 100% correct. I agree with that. It is in the Quran. Messenger job is only deliver the message. Rashad was not a prophet, did not come with another revelation besides the Quran. Don't make it up another revelation. He read the Quran, the verse, and that verse, the meaning of that verse was distorted or lost. And therefore, he says, my duty is to remind you that this is about this, and he shows the verse. There's verse there. It's not
But hold on. But can't we argue that the correct meaning that he got, that was a revelation? The understanding of the correct meaning, which points to it being age of 40.
There is only one correct meaning there. Why God mentions about forgiving a person, about age of maturity, about 40 in connection with forgiveness. It is a logical connection. Yes, he made that logical connection, but that is a logical connection that a person with good mind should be able to make that logical connection.
Okay. Next question. Was there someone else had another question? Okay,
I have the questions listed actually, kind of in order. Abhishek had a question.
We're like 50 people on right now, Edip. We have like 50 people on. We have 50 people listening live right now.
Yeah, I'm not able to see people. I am very lost, like in a jungle here.
Can I ask?
It's okay. It's probably better you don't see them anyway.
Yeah, probably better. Yeah. So the question is from Abhishek. He says, question for Edip. How do you understand Ruku and Sujud? That's his question.
Ruku and Sujud in the Quran means bowing down and means accepting, and Sujud means completely submitting yourself to that truth. For example, the Quran tells the children of Jacob, when they go to Egypt, says, فَادْخُلِ الْبَابَ رُكًّا سُجَّدًا, enter the gate of Egypt prostrating. And it doesn't mean really enter the gate prowling on the floor. It is to follow God's laws. For example, God says, everything in the universe, they prostrate God, they do sujud. Well, it doesn't mean they are doing bowing down 90 degrees like we do. Therefore, sujud really means to submit God's law and orders. But at the same time, it is used also in physical sense. And for example, about the motion of the shadow. And therefore, I say the first meaning of it is mentally, intellectually, spiritually accepting God and obeying God's law, accepting it. And also, when if it is about this prayer, let's say there is certain bodily, it is obvious there, then you affirm it. For example, be kind to people. The kindness is in your mind and heart, your deed. But at the same time, when you do kindness to people, you smile with your face, with your gestures, you express it. The same with the prayer. But ruku and sujud physical is not necessary condition of the salat prayer, because the Quran says you can do rukbanan while riding it. You cannot do it physically, but mentally still you can do bowing to God and accepting God's laws. I hope it is clear, but
Okay.
yes.
Okay. B, can you come up, please, and ask your question?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Yeah. So just my question is generally the direction. I think it's kind of related to the direction question of the room, title of the room on Quranism. So this is my personal take on the whole Quran alone movement. It's become like a train wreck, literally. And the reason is that all kinds of conspiracy theories, it has become like a conspiracist movement. And Edip, I've been following your writings for a very long time, and you were one of the main influences for me personally to come to the conclusion of accepting the Quran alone.
What is your name?
My name is I'll DM your name. I don't want to reveal my name here.
Okay. Where are you from?
Right now, I'm in the US.
Okay. Go ahead, my brother.
Yeah. So, I believe you personally. I've read some of your old articles, including all the way. Remember 19 questions for Muslim scholars. Starting from there, how do we do the salah? And I think you criticized these conspiracies, like Aidid Safar. He was one of the early proponents of these conspiracy theories that Salat is not Salat, and Siyam is not Siyam, and Kaaba was somewhere else, and this and that, and Hajj is not pilgrimage, and all that. But
yes,
what I see gradually over time, it looks like your articles are wonderful. It's still there on 19.org. One of the titles is Conspiracy Against Conspiracies of Words in the Wonderland. It's a beautifully written article, probably, I don't know how many years ago, decades, or 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But over time, I feel that you have kind of reached the same position just by judging by your comments today, right now, on Salah, for example, on what is sujood and what is ruku. If it is not bending down 90 degrees and falling with your face to the ground, that essentially means that that's not what was practiced at the time of Prophet Muhammad. And if that's the case, that means this whole ritual was fabricated by somebody at some point later. And so I would see that as a conspiracy theory. My main question is, if we look at the Quran alone movement, they are obsessed with these kind of questions. One of the questions that's obsessing them is the form of salah. So somehow they came to the understanding that the form of salah needs to be reconstructed from the Quran. If you see Rashad's position, for example, in Quran, Hadith, and Islam, he says that God says, do it, you know how to do it. And I think you did it too. If you read your article on how to do the salah from the Quran alone, you have a statement which says that verse 16, verse 123 is a direct proof that all religious practices in Islam were intact when Muhammad was born. Thus, he was enjoined to follow the religion of Abraham. If I ask you to ride a bicycle, it is assumed that you know what a bicycle is, and you know to learn it from those who ride it. This is a beautiful metaphor, and I agree with this metaphor, actually. But if we see, this is a beautiful way, right? That if Quran tells you to do something, you know it, you do it. Simple as that. But The other approach is you don't know how to do it, you have to reconstruct it. And people have been trying to reconstruct all kinds of details which are not there in the Quran on how to bow, how to prostrate, how many times to bow, how many times to prostrate, whether there's such a thing as rakah. Some people say it's 2 rakah, some people say 1 rakah, some people say 0 rakah. And they argue forever and ever and ever. So Salat is one of the things they argue forever about. Siyam or fasting is another one they argue about. When is Ramadan is something they argue about. Hajj is something they argue about. Where is the Masjid al-Haram? So this distracts away from the purpose of the Quran. The message is to worship God alone, to commemorate God alone. Don't worry about form. Like form is already taken care of. But I don't want to speak for too long.
Thank you very much.
My summary is this, if I can let me summarize in 30 seconds. This whole movement has turned into a train wreck because the only thing they argue about is irrelevant things of discussions of form, which is not mentioned. And they bash Sunnis, bash Hadith. There is no spirituality. Their focus is taken off from connection to God and worshiping God alone. And I have a sense that at one point you were clearly communicated your opposition to this, but over time you may have seem to be in alignment with this. So I would like to ask you to clarify your position. And
thank you very much.
Yes,
in some cases, in some cases, I thought that I was extreme on the ritualistic side. In those cases, I corrected myself, of course, but I'm not still in a position. I'm not rejecting ritual part of it, but I'm not emphasizing it. I think it is not emphasized. I think emphasizing that is distracting from major things. And I think what is in the Quran, the word salat, first of all, I want to share with you, my brothers, the word salat in the Quran, in most cases, is about salat between people. Salat, for example, Salli alayhim inna salataka sakanun lahum. Tells to Prophet Muhammad, do salat them, and your salat of them, it relieves them. Very interesting. And then tells believers, Salli alayhi inna salat, salli alayhi wa sallimu taslima. And then God also and his angels do salat to us. Just simple. Therefore, salat is not one way. It is multiple way. It is different ways. We do salat to God. God does salat to us. We do salat to leaders, and the leaders do salat to us. What that mean? It means being in solidarity, being in touch. When we talk about Salat al-Jumu'ah, it is the solidarity. It is a congregational solidarity. Yes, a believer will do salat with God that time, but it is with community. Therefore, psychological, social, political and economic, financial solidarity of community it is. But we forgot about that meaning. Absolutely, I think it is travesty. When the Quran talks about salat, in many places, it is about this secular, this social, political, financial solidarity, supporting each other. And we forgot about that one. As far as our salat with God, instead of focusing about our mind and heart, and we focus more about how to bow down, how many times, and hands and nails and these kind of things. And I do think this is a Sunni distortion. And with time, we are influenced by that one. We are now coming into that distortion, and we are losing our sight. The most important thing, liberty, individual liberty, la ilaha illallah. Second is justice, to promote justice on earth, to help the needy, the poor, the orphans, and also promote peace on earth. These are the continuously true prophets. Be honest in our dealing with other people. Throughout the Quran, the prophets, what they are focused on, we don't see them focusing on how many times the prayer, where do you put your hands, their legs, goodness sake, or the beard, how long the beard. We got into absolutely distracted through these rituals about the basic issues. 99% of the Quran, we ignore it.
Okay. Do we have another person that wants to ask a question? If we have the list of questions.
Yeah, I still have two questions that I could still ask from the VC1 chat. Baran the M is wanting to know, Edip, are you a submitter or peacemaker?
Okay, yeah, let's get that. Which title do you prefer?
I prefer both titles because as a believer, as a mu'min, I submit to God. As a Muslim, I am a peacemaker. I promote peace on earth because the word Salama, Islam, again, has two connotations throughout the Quran, two relations. One is submitting to God. The other promotes salam, peace, silm in the world. And there are two important zones. One is Iman, the other is Islam. Unfortunately, this is confused. Sometimes they are mixed, confused with each other. Iman is my relationship with God. It is spiritual, it is personal, individual. It is my trust to God. It involves my intention. It involves my eternal life. As far as Islam involves me and my neighbor, my family, my neighbor, the whole humanity. Every mu'min, according to Quran, every monotheist is a Muslim, is a peacemaker. But every Muslim, according to Quran, may not be mu'min. In chapter 49, it clearly states. Therefore, Islam is peacemaking, is secular. The Medina city-state during the time of Prophet Muhammad with Islam, there were Mu'min Muslims, there were Christians, there were Mushrik Muslims, they were peacemakers. They established peace there. They had a contract, a kind of constitution. Anyway, these are confused topics. We may discuss it much longer later, inshallah.
That's fine. That's fine. Another question that was asked is, and if I can clarify the question for you. So just to be clear, you believe that Rashad Khalifa was a messenger of God. Can you first confirm that so we can move forward?
Of course, in fact, before even he declared his messengership, I was in Turkey months before he declared. I was studying the 19, and later I checked his name. It was me who discovered that. In fact, he published it.
Right.
And then I checked his name was mentioned 19 times in the Quran, the roots of things. And then I said, this cannot be coincidence. And this the timing of the discovery. That time I didn't know, 1974. Later I came into that. But this miracle, God will not let a hypocrite, a liar to get it. This is a major discovery. Most likely God picked him, chose him, not most likely, 100%. Therefore, I wrote to him, I said, you are messenger of God. And then later, when he declared his messengership from Turkey, he also published this my statement in letter to him. Therefore, I had no doubted before. After he declared.
So now that was just the setting the premise to get to the main question. So brother asked the question, okay, so God sent this messenger. Now, can someone witness the miracle, witness this fact that he was a messenger of God identified in 381, and then say, I reject, study all the evidence, witness it and examine it, then say, I reject the messenger of the covenant. To you, is this an acceptable position for someone? Can you do that and be a sincere person?
No, I never rejected his messengership.
No. I'm not talking about you. You made your position clear. You said you accept his messengership. I'm saying someone else comes, somebody else, okay? I'm not talking about you. Somebody else comes and they say that I do not, they examine everything. The question is, can somebody come and say, I reject Rashad's messengership? At that point, do they fall into the categories that we witness in the Quran, these communities that come and they get destroyed or whatever, they get punished or whatever, they have a bad outcome? Do you see this the same way, that if I just refuse to accept Rashad as a messenger, then after I witness the evidence?
Well, accepting Rashad's messengership, it should be based on some information of the person. I think just directly rejecting him is problematic, but because the witnessing mathematical miracle, it is very common, logical way to think about it. The Quran says God will not reveal, chapter 72 says God will not reveal his secrets only to a messenger. Therefore, that and many other verses in the Quran clearly indicates that the code was brought, this secret was brought about by a messenger of God. It is a logical connection, but some people may not make it. Therefore, a matter of providing them with logical connection, maybe it requires some discussion, but still insisting it is his problem. And God knows what his intention, because the Quran doesn't specifically state it. It requires some brain work, some connection, and some people, but how do you say, rejecting him and insulting him. And I think it is a major responsibility. It is a difficult situation. Maybe end up in hell. Yes.
Okay. So you believe that if you get sufficient knowledge, you witness the miracle. I'm not talking about an ignorant person. If somebody gets sufficient knowledge, witnesses the miracle, sees all the evidence, and insists on refusing to say that Rashad was a messenger of God, then they very likely can just end up in hell. Do you
There
agree
are two
with
problems. Yeah, exactly. That person, I think, has other problem. Either expecting a messenger of God to be perfect like God, not a human being that could make mistakes, that learns with time. Because if in his mind, messenger is a God, is a demigod, human God, he will have difficulty accepting Rashad as a messenger. I have no doubt he would have difficulty accepting Muhammad or Jesus or Moses, because all humans, they were making mistakes. They were not omniscient. They didn't know everything. Therefore, the very idea of messenger in that person's mind is problematic. Or maybe there is other problem. He has other idols. Since Rashad smashed those idols, he cannot give up his former idols. And I cannot find any reason for a reasonable person who witnessed the miracle will not come to the conclusion that Rashad was a messenger of God.
I'm sorry to push on this point because they keep asking for further clarifications. What if someone says, I accept Quran alone and I accept 19, but I reject Rashad as a messenger? I would say they fall in the same camp. Do you agree that it doesn't matter? Because if you're blocked, you're blocked. Why should you be prevented from accepting the messenger of God? What do you agree with this assessment?
I don't know. That person, everyone has different reasons and problems. Either they have heard maybe very bad things about Rashad, and therefore they need to investigate it. There is a problem of false information. Or they heard some of the things that, as I said, certain errors he made. If they expect a perfect guy, of course that perfection is not there, because they are not expecting a messenger, they're expecting a God. And therefore, that is, I think, still they have time to go. And I'm not much indulging with people about Rashad. I am focusing on God and Quran. But when that topic comes, when I see person is insulting him and saying he's a liar, that is a major, major claim that any believer should be shunned to do that.
I have another question for you. Do you believe that there have been any messengers that you know of since Rashad Khalifa?
Well, I think I am the magnet of those people. I received so many messages, emails, and phones from all around the world, not only United States, Malaysia, Turkey, Egypt, everywhere. We have so many inflation of messengers, and sometimes there are Mahdis come to me, and sometimes Messiahs, Jesus Christ, and they find me the first one to check. They think I am going to sponsor them. And well, so far, I think I find very childish claims by people whose all invention is their basically ego, their name. And they put their names next to each other, numbers, arbitrary. They have no idea about mathematical probability of these things. They are indulged in their own self. And so far, no, but there is a few guys. I think one is Ali Fazli stuff, and no, but I think he's a sincere guy. He thinks that he is, but I'm not convinced.
You're not. Can I just follow up with that? You're not impressed with the ultimate mathematics of Fazli?
No, I think it is very clear. The thing that if you cannot summarize it, if you cannot make an abstract or formula or summarize something with something clearly, and there is a problem there. In their things, we see a lot of observations here and there, but they are not a system, they are anecdotal. And therefore, I do think they are carried away with their some observations, some of them mathematical properties, some of them basically disconnected, some of them interesting but anecdotal, independent observation. Calculating their probability mathematically is huge challenge because they are working on every number. There are infinite numbers, especially if you have multiple way of processing them, putting next to each other, adding to each other, or jumping among them in any way you want just to reach a certain conclusion. And therefore, I am not impressed by that. But I like some of the observation everywhere, but I don't see a system, a mathematical miracle that I could say. Therefore, I think he's a good guy with good intention, but I think he's in a false assumption regarding his discovery. Anyone who supports that, I would ask him to summarize to me, give me an idea. If anyone asks me about number 19, I can give that to that person. The theory of relativity, one formula, or many things in mathematics, in sciences, you can easily summarize it, let people have an idea. Then, goodness sake, they're prime numbers, they're composite numbers, they're jumping all over them.
All kinds of stuff. Okay, and you don't necessarily see that for code 19. You see this as like a coherent code.
Oh my God, code 19 is an incredible, verifiable, falsifiable scientific evidence. So far, no one could withstand against code 19. It's very clear. It's very clear. It's not like that. I have discussed it with top atheists, with mathematicians. I discussed it with top mathematician at Princeton University, legendary Professor Cohen, John Cohen, for hours. This guy is a great mind. Look at him. Just write John Cohen. He died recently from COVID-19. I have also video with him. But before that and after that, I had discovered this guy was struggling to, object it, but he couldn't. And Dr. Michael Shermer, he's the head of Skeptic Foundation. And you see this guy, how he ended up looking at the camera saying, I look like an idiot. And this is one of the smartest guy atheists have, top 10 atheists. And the reason is code 19. The top mathematician they brought in a live TV against me together with the former head of religious affairs, Professor Süleyman Ateş, and that from Bosphorus University, professor of mathematics in cryptology. And look at that video. It is available about 3 hours, 2-3 hours. The head of religious affairs, twice he escaped from studio and he made up lies. He messed up in front of millions. He basically insulted himself. He claimed that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim doesn't have 19 letters. He added 2 letters to Basmalah in front of millions of people watching. And the math professor, in half an hour, he was neutralized. He was silenced. He could not do anything because whatever criticism he could make, I preemptively refuted them. He didn't have anything. You can watch how they lose.
Okay. One question. It's just a minor thing. If you give your opinion, do you accept the first revelation of the Quran to be 19 words, or do you find that disputed?
It is based on tradition that the first revelation is اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم. What was it? I forgot even.
And the last issue is the ma'lam, which is counted as one word.
Yes, I struggled in 1980s, 86, more than that. I struggled with that because ma'lam should be counted as one word in order to make it 19. And there is a problem there. However, that time I wrote article while I was in Turkey before 1989. And interestingly, when I checked, there is Dr. Bezirgan's book, Hawli Seyri Tahawuli Quran. Seyri Tahawuli Quran. Yes, he has a Persian book. He was the first prime minister of Iran during Khomeini time. But he was Bazargan, yes. He was on Quran, he wrote this book. Basically, he was studying the verses of the Quran according to their order of revelation and also topic ways. And he came to the conclusion that there are certain conclusions in the book about in order of chronological order. Right. And then in that one, the first revelation, he was also counting 19 words in these 5 verses of chapter 96. Iqra bismi rabbika allazi khalaq. Therefore, that was interesting. That coincidence to me was instructive, but I cannot, for 2 reasons, I'm not even mentioning this in my books for 2 reasons. One is I don't want to give ammunition to ignorance, to hypocrites. They will say, where did you get this information that is the first revelation? Oh, you believe in our hadith and stuff. And the second, I don't want to go into argument regarding Ma'lam. But in the future, if we come up with a standard that Ma'lam is counted 1 in everywhere, and we come up with a kind of pattern that supports that, we don't have a pattern.
Consistent methodology, right?
Yeah, this is only one single thing. Therefore, I think it is a weak one. I don't include it in our exposition of number 19.
Nevertheless, you do accept it. You just don't promote it necessarily, right?
I am not sure, but I think most likely it is 19 words.
Okay. The next issue that's asked about is Surah Naml 27. The idea here, claim is there's 342 words between the Bismillah and the extra Bismillah. What's your position on this?
I counted, I found the same, but some people said no, it is not. And I don't remember whether I counted back again. I should revisit that one. Thank you for reminding. And I need to go count them again. But when initially I counted, I remember I had also manually counted them. I came up with 342, as you said, it's multiple of 19.
Okay.
But I need to count it. In case if it is not, then it is not. We cannot really go against facts.
Okay, thank you.
If Robert, can I ask a couple? Yeah, so some people have...
I just had a couple of quick questions in regarding to the specific mathematical issues. People are asking me in DM. So, of the 29 surahs, how many would you say that can be contested for the initial counts?
The only ones that could be contested is the one with Elif, and I do 100% without doubt believe that they will, when we have the accurate count of them, inshallah, one day study will be done on multiple manuscripts, a comparative study that we see consistent standard writing. I do 100% know that it will be multiple of 19, it will be within the system, no doubt, because there are multiple claims in the past when we didn't have information about them supporting archaeological evidence. I made the claim based on number 19. My claim, my prediction came true. I have no doubt about that. That is still, I think, a subject of study, which is beautiful. God leaves people, ignorant people also, hypocrites, some hope that they think that this will be. But one day it will be done. And second, Taha, Tasin, and these Tasimin, these 3 chapters, I do think there might be an issue regarding Ha, letter Ha or Te. And that is, if I have time, inshallah, in the future, peace of mind, I will focus on that. Other than that, other things are 100% clear. 7 chapters starting with Hamim, 2,147 times is mentioned, all of them. Or Kaf Ha Ya Ain Sad, 798 times, these 5 letters. 3 chapters starting with letter Sad, it is 152. correct, multiple of 19. Qaf, 2 chapters starting with Qaf, multiple of 19. Yasin is multiple of 19, 285. And these are, to me, more than enough to prove that this numerical structure of the Quran also involves these letters and numbers in the beginning of 29 chapters of the Quran.
Yeah, okay, that's fantastic.
Yes.
And I agree with you. So the question then is, the other question that we get a lot on the server, people ask about the letter Nun. Can you provide explanation on Nun for us, please?
Yes, on Nun, I changed my position on that issue. I know that the Nun must be 133 because the code of the Quran is also has error correction function. It proved twice, one in the word Basatan, its spelling in chapter 7, verse 69, and also about the spelling of word Wahid. If you see one of my videos, there was a Turkish professor, hadith professor, challenged me on I was very unprepared, not unprepared, 2 nights sleepless in a symposium from Ankara. I was going to Bursa, another conference there. I needed to sleep several hours in a hotel, but the person who took me from airport knew this guy. This guy had prepared to meet me in a top of the cafe. Anyway, I met him. This guy challenged me with Wahid, says, here is Wahid. You write it with Alif because it comes multiple of 19. But here is in the manuscript, Usman, Rethmi Usman, Hafs version, or whatever other version. And then it is written without Alif. It is 18, the numerical value of Wahid, 18. He says, can you show me just one single manuscript where you will find it with Alif? I said, no. I cannot, I don't have. However, I know 100% this must be with Alif because the mathematical structure of the Quran creates a wonderful table regarding repetition of the frequency of the words in Basmalah and also God's attribute, the numerical value of God's attribute. It is an interlocking system. It is impossible to be a coincidence. Therefore, this must be, Wahid must be Alif. And guess what? Several weeks later, it was, I discovered later, initially I was exaggerating this one. I thought I need to travel to Cairo, to Istanbul, to Moscow, see all those manuscripts, study. Therefore, I had postponed it for 30 years. But because of that challenge, he published it there and people thought I lost. Therefore, I went on internet, not much hope. How can you search it for it? And then finally, after 2 hours search, usually a few seconds, I find anything on internet. But this was not easy because there was no such an argument on it. And then I found more than 2 dozens of manuscripts or pages in museums and collections and libraries, exactly Wahid with Alif. And this shows that Nun, okay, I'm coming to Nun. Chapter Nun, initially I thought that it must be spelled out as a Nun Waw Nun. In fact, I was the one who cut the Zannun's Nun and pasted in the Rashad's translation in the Arabic section. However, later my attention, I look at the verse, one of the verses in that say, يوم يكشف الساق عن ساق. I think يوم يكشف, and then it could be read يوم نكشف. And this is my personal thesis. I'm not 100% sure, but that could be the reading problem. It could be يوم نكشف, when we expose, instead of when it was exposed. Instead of passive, when you make it a nekshifu, when we expose, then it becomes 133.
Somebody just made the claim that Rashad used the Samarkand manuscript as evidence for the Nun. Is that an accurate statement?
No. Rashad didn't have any supporting, we didn't have any supporting any manuscript, any archaeological evidence. We were just guessing based on the evidence we have.
Okay, But you do believe it's 133 noons, and you currently do accept this noon wal noon, and so, and I agree.
I'm not sure.
So,
I think that
okay,
I
you're
am
not
right
sure.
now inclined to make the correction based on yukshafu, turn it to nekshifu. Let me see. What was
Okay,
chapter
I see.
68?
68.
41, yeah. Which verse is it? Yeah, 42. 68, 42. يوم يكشف عن ساق ويدعون إلى السجود فلا يستطيعون. The day will come when they will be exposed and they will be required to prostrate, but they will be unable to. It could be read, this is maybe that was the one misread. يوم نكشف عن ساق. When we expose the secrets, and وَيُدْعَوْنَ إِلَى السُّجُودِ فَلَا يَسْتَطِعُونَ. It could be possibility. Therefore, right now, I am in between the two.
Okay, another quick question before we move on to the
We
other
still
subject.
we still have so much questions.
Oh, hold on. Okay, just quick question. This is just kind of a very short answer. Do you accept or reject 2280 as the end of the world?
2280, that I have a very interesting story. And in 1986, I received a magazine from Tunisia, Al-Ilm wal-Iman. I have it in my library right now, a few versions of it. And it was one of the article of Rashad Khalifa was published at about 19. It was the cover story, I think, and that it was in Arabic. And then at the end says, I have it here, I can even read it. And I recently made a Turkish video about the end of the world. I should make it in English, beautiful. And then it then says in next volume edition, next month, will publish Rashad's Discovery, the End of the World in the Quran. Allah. It really baffled me because I was, based on Sunni things, I thought that it was a secret. No one would know it. And but I now I look at the verses, I find that it may not be correct. It may not be correct. God may give the end of the world in the Quran. Therefore, I studied it in about a couple of days. I came up with these verses in chapter, I think 15. What was it? Chapter 15? Yeah. And then chapter 15 about وآتيناك سبعا من المثاني والقرآن العظيم. And then I checked the سبعا من المثاني, 7 times 2, 14 initials. I added their numerical values. I found out 1709. And then I said after this one, because this is the time given to Muhammad's Ummah. And then I said 1710 Hijri, or 2280 Miladi must be the end of the world. It was 1986. I wrote a letter to Rashad Khalifa. I said, I don't have your work. I haven't read your article about the end of the world, but I learned that you discovered. Here is what I discovered. And then he wrote to me. He said, this is exactly what I did. And he sent me a pamphlet about the end of the world. Therefore, independently of him, about 6 years after his discovery, I came up with the exact 2280 as the end of the world based on the Quran.
So you do accept this date then, currently?
It is not, I know it because I discovered independently myself too. Okay. Of course.
Good. Okay, we have another follow-up question from the B. B, can you please come up and ask your question so we can move on?
I think Robert had a question. Let's finish that first, and then I'll go after that.
Yes, actually, it was it was Light who had a question towards Edip. Edip, someone asks, what if someone discovers a new numerical link in the Quran? For instance, a link between 19 and 29 in the Quran.
If there are sufficient evidence with mathematical significance, mashallah, I would say, wow, another miracle in the Quran. There shouldn't be any problem. Why?
Tremendous. Okay, thank you. The B.
Yeah, thank you. So Edip, just to follow up on our earlier discussion. Just to summarize, the first response I wanted to get was on those who reject the idea of ritual completely and de-emphasize the physical aspect of it. And when I said it's a train wreck, I meant that approach was taking the Quran alone movement. If it's just interaction with people and all that, and that the spiritual component is completely lost. And also, the Salat is described as Zikrullah in the Quran, like in 29:45, and also in Surah 20, verse 14, Waqim Salat al-Dhikri, right, for my remembrance. So that aspect is completely lost. And then I think you mentioned things like beard and where to tie the hands. Of course, without a doubt, there's all kinds of silly things that people emphasize: where to tie the hand, how high to raise it, how far to spread your feet, and all that. Those, I'm not talking about them. But there are certain things that the Quran does emphasize, which we cannot ignore. Like, for example, the specific times of Salah, right? God explicitly says these are the specific times and describes them in various verses. Then the postures are mentioned, the Ruku and Sujud. And now we can interpret the verse that you just read when we discussed in Surah 68. That's a very telling verse, right? The day when they will be completely exposed and they will be invited to do sujood, but they cannot. So this is again talking about physical sujood. If we ignore all these things, first of all, the movement is left. This whole spirituality is ripped out completely. If the objective of our purpose of our life is not to worship God alone and not to commemorate God alone and not to connect with God, and it becomes like a meeting or something, right? That's the first thing. And secondly, there's no consensus, because if we start inventing conspiracy theories, no two conspiracy theories are going to match. So what is sujood? What is ruku? What is salah? What is hajj? If you ask two different Quranists, you will get the 4 different answers. And so it's become like a joke, because everybody is spinning, and even from day to day, if you ask them one day, it's one thing. If you ask them another day, it's something else. So we have an infinite number of combinations of conspiracy theories, and that's all there is. That's why I was asking more about the future of the Quran, and what is the point of the Quran movement.
Yeah.
If all we're doing is bashing Sunnis and bashing Shias and bashing Hadith and say, these stupid people, they're arguing about where to tie the hand, and they're all that, we find infinite number of reasons to bash them. But we have ripped out all spirituality from our religion, and at the end of the day, religion is reduced to Sunni bashing without anything. So that's what I was asking about. So what do you think? Where is the direction if that's all that is left over? If we rip out all the religions, all the rituals, all the purpose of the rituals, which if you rip out the commemoration of God, and there's nothing left, and what is the purpose then? And that's the question.
Well, I honestly, I don't think that rituals that you are mentioning is the one creates spirituality, monotheism stuff. And I disagree with you. And I think there are millions and billions of evidence against you, because you cannot be more ritualistic regarding Salat prayer than Sunnis and Shiites and stuff. They are very into it, but they have no spirituality. They are a bunch of hypocrites. They are very unfortunate.
Again, you're seeing the same things, right? That's what I was reading about. Yeah.
Right. And therefore, I think it is a matter of spirituality. It is mostly mental, intellectual. A person who means yakhsha'un, means to revere God. الذين يتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. They think about God's creation in nature and about themselves, and therefore they compassionate, they care about other people, they commemorate God. How you commemorate God? Commemorating God is not just saying God, 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 repeating the word and having vibrations in the air. It is commemoration of God, is remembering God through his attributes. God is haq and the truth. Commemoration God when you seek the truth. When you have good intention, righteous intention, you commemorate God, you search for God. You are following God, you are submitting the truth. When you for justice, When you stand for justice for oppressed people, you at the same time you commemorate God's attribute regarding justice. When you stand for peace against aggression, against wars, you do the same. This is ultimate spirituality, ultimate intellectuality, ultimate iman. Look at the messengers, prophets, what they did. All they did not kind of just going into things, just repeating God's name or kind of doing physical stuff. The physicality can come afterwards, but the real issue is not. But about the prayer, I think you forgot.
Yeah.
The Quran says you can pray even if you don't have water ablution. You can pray even you cannot bow down, and so you can pray even short. Only you cannot pray when you are mentally, you don't know what you are saying. This verse is enough to refute the idea that rituals, physical stuff is the essence of the spirituality.
So I would say that the Quran mentions special cases where you can relax on form. That does not mean that normal circumstances, it's actually, it proves that in normal circumstances there is a form. But talking about messengers, right? The whole message of Rashad Khalifa is useless, essentially, if all his so-called, you said that you acknowledge that it was part of his mission to correct the salah, the corrections that he talked about. But if he was doing the wrong thing, first of all, he's not a messenger. According to what you just said, you said every single messenger did not do the physical salah. They did some mental salah. But then that's not what Rashad did. So that's kind of goes against what you're saying. And also, what is the historical evidence that somehow the Sunnis and Shias fabricated a whole ritual, and everybody, all the different sects just agreed on doing it exactly the same way? What's the historical evidence? And what is the need for twisting or reinventing the meanings of the words in all the verses? There's so many details given in the Quran, like what is ruku, what is sujud, what is qibla. So many different words have to be reinvented, taken completely out of context to come up with this theory. What is the reason for this, other than the fact that, oh, these Sunnis and Shias, they are horrible people and what they do cannot be the true ritual? That's the only argument I've heard so far.
No, that means you miss it. You miss the whole message of the Quran. Unfortunately, it is not.
Okay.
For example, if we follow the Quran, we should come together, work about ending the poverty. This capitalistic system is distributing the wealth to the upper, to the billionaires, and there are many people around the world suffering. Let's work for that. Don't you see other prophets? Moses worked about this. Didn't you
Rashad was a hypocrite. Is that what you're saying? If you say that, then Rashad was a hypocrite.
No.
Why he didn't do this, right? He focused on physical salat. Then
listen,
he wouldn't make him a hypocrite who misunderstood the message of the Quran. That's essentially what he's saying. The messenger of God misunderstood the message of the Quran. Can you just focus on that question? I'll leave out everything other question.
No, here it is.
You said that I missed the message of the Quran. So Rashad missed the message of the Quran.
No, you miss it. You miss it. He didn't miss it because he was coming out. Initially, it is about the faith, the idea of God, and the epistemology. He had to focus on that. That's the first start. First, saving people from bondage of clergymen and idols. That's the major stuff. After that, it opens the way. And then few rituals, the idol worship, the major thing, what he made the correction, it's about idol worship. The whole messenger's message can be summarized in La ilaha illallah. When you do that, the moment a person, not just verbally, mentally do that, through God-given faculty, and in fact, Islam is in our nature, and the Quran is a reminder, and you work for those things. And Rashad was doing in his personal things, he was helping poor and anything that he could do at that time. But this was the starting point. And I do the same way. But at the same time, if you want to come to a community, you have to work for this. Throughout the Quran, you ignore so many verses, and you right now exaggerate the things that it's not in the Quran at all, and you say, I follow the Quran alone, well, I have to do these things, which is not, but you ignore all the things in the Quran, the most emphasized mentioned things. I cannot believe how come you deviate from, but I cannot help you. That's okay. Go count your rituals, your numbers and stuff, and your fingers, your toes, no problemo. But I do whatever I do, I get the whole stories of prophets, their message, their discussion. They are not discussing what we are discussing now. None of them.
Okay,
None
okay,
of
okay, okay, okay. Let's stop that.
Can I
just want to
continue
make,
asking my
hold on,
questions?
Just one follow-up though. I just want to make one statement on this.
Okay.
Edip, I know you were there at the last conference of the submitters group with Rashad Khalifa, United Submitters, September 1989. And you remember there was one particular rowdy individual, Susan Ray, and she was complaining, making a ruckus, and you took the microphone and kind of argued a little bit with her. And if you remember this event, you remember one of the things Rashad said to her. He said to her, and he asked. He says, "Look, you attack us, you complain about us, this and that. Do you do your salat like us?" And it sounded like me. Rashad was asking. That was as one of his prerequisites is if you can do your salat with us, then that makes you one of us. But if you do a different salat, then you're out. And this is kind of consistent in the Quran. I believe it's either Shu'aib or Saleh in the Quran. It says, "What is his salat?" Right. So what's your position on this issue?
This is the same problem that Mohammedans fell into. We are right now falling because what Rashad discussed with someone, you don't know the background, what was the previous, the major discussion issue, what was the implication, and afterward. You don't know even how they prayed. Now, based on deen, we have to divine, we have to commentary what could be the things and build our religion based on a conference, a discussion. We are privy only a part of it. You have no clue. And then based on guesswork, we want to build something. I'm not going to indulge this because you don't know how even she was praying. She was asking help from Prophet Muhammad and Ali.
No,
have
that's
no clue
fine.
about
I'm not disputing. I'm not claiming even how she prayed. I'm saying the way Rashad approached the situation, he just asked, "Does she pray like us?" And to me, that seemed like he was using that as a metric to identify if someone's even associated with it.
Listen, about us, he didn't mean about Sunnis. You are talking about Sunni. No, hold on. Let me carefully. About us, what that time different between us and Sunnis was commemorating name of Muhammad or not. That was the major difference. And therefore, are you praying like us? It meant that because Rashad was praying exactly like Sunnis do. Okay, therefore it could not be, oh, are you praying like Sunnis? No, are you really commemorating God alone in the prayer? That is like us.
Fine. But also in that same conference, he decided, because there was noise in the kitchen, he said, "Let's pray west," and everyone just prayed behind him. Do you think someone can just disobey him and say, "No, I'm not going to pray with you"? Do you find that an acceptable position?
No, I think that's fine. I think that time unity, someone leading the prayer direction, that's no problem.
Okay, so you agree that if we were all there and we say he's the messenger, he says, "Look, I'm going to pray west," we all just say yes, sir, and we just all pray west.
Yeah, but it could be argued that he had wrong understanding of the direction. He was on Marcador's flat map. Possible he was a human being, but oh no, Rashad got revelation from God, a different book. God told him you have to turn west. Nope, there is no such a thing. If you make it up, it is. But Rashad, excuse me.
Yeah, I just want to make this position clear that personally I don't, and most people on this server, we don't believe that Rashad received any kitab, as in he didn't receive a scripture, right? Muhammad, that would make him a prophet. The final prophet was Muhammad. The final scripture was Quran. Anything else is just, there is no specific words from God. There are some teachings, some explanations. A lot of them maybe you even agree with. I would say Code 19 is a revelation from God. This is all information from God. But in terms of specific words dictated from Gabriel, the same way Muhammad got information dictated to him, I would say that's not the case with Rashad. I would not make such an argument. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
That's beautiful. And again, that time even if I knew Qibla is another direction, I see the leader of the community thinks that is that right direction. I should not make an issue out of that because it is a matter of really intention and unity of the people to create a discord after that, because I know the intention is to unify and commemorate God alone. We are not worshiping the Qibla.
Okay, fine. But just one last question, kind of follow-up question, then we can move on to the other issues. So, but in regard to today, if we have a masjid, right, and how would people determine a way of unity in a masjid? Because this is one of the common complaints we hear, is that with the new age Quranist movement, they can never form a masjid. They don't have this kind of sense of brotherhood and unity. It's always just endless bickering and arguing about Ramadan being. They say Ramadan means scorching heat. And
No, these are aberration and abnormal distortions. I do believe that we should have masjid, we should come together, we should physically pray together. That's a beautiful thing, and I have no problem with that. I think it is a beautiful thing, and I think that we should fast one Ramadan from dawn to sunset. It is, to me, it is clear in the Quran, though I cannot sometimes. But God says, if you cannot, you pay to others. If you cannot even afford that, God is forgiver. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh,
Robert,
if I may,
I
please.
do have my questions.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, like, how do you know that the Quran that you have is the Quran?
Okay,
Because like, as far as I know, that there's different Qira'at, but how do you know those Qira'at are the Quran?
we would accept the one confirmed by Code 19.
He's asking Edip.
Yeah. I wanted to give it to Edip. I want to say, Edip, do you see that as a fair assessment, is using the one that we can corroborate with Code 19? What's your position on this? Just very briefly, please.
Yeah. I don't care which version is this, who brought this, even the bunch of liars, Ibn Falan, Abu Falan brought this. I look at it under microscope and I check it on Mohs index. I find it is 10 hardest things. I look at it, I see the carbon atoms, they are configured in a way exactly this is diamond. I say this is a diamond. Wow. And then you come to me, you say, how do you know who brought this diamond? Whether this is a reliable diamond or not, whether this is a piece of glass. I say, goodness sake, come, let's together study it. This cannot be anything. Even if you find it in the junk on the street, this is a diamond and this is a piece of glass. Therefore, the mathematical numerical of the Quran cannot be coincidence in any book.
Okay, Fatir, we'll talk about this later, inshallah. This is not
Can we discuss later this issue by issue, because too many questions, important book. This brother has a good question. We should respect another.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Edip, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
We have a lot of, we appreciate it. Inshallah, I'll coordinate with you. Inshallah, we talk more soon, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. People, those who I couldn't answer their questions or whatever, that you are not satisfied, I don't have really, how do you say, the power to satisfy everyone. Is between me and God. I share with you and you share with me. Ultimately, I ask forgiveness from God for you, for myself, and I ask guidance from God for myself and you. And we cannot follow each other blindly, and therefore, whatever I say, you are responsible of yourself. Therefore, everyone should be think for themselves. And inshallah, we'll discuss these issues, especially with Sunni brothers and Shiite brothers, Catholic brothers, sisters, and especially about Tawheed, because I do think that's the most important thing. When you are liberated from bondage of clergymen, you become a better human being, and God's guidance is the most important thing. And there are certain details for me, but you may think it is important. MashaAllah, go ahead. Peace.
Okay, thank you so much.